I bought two books today. The first book, and I've written these up on the website already, so there's a write-up about these books. But this book is by John Wilson. I met John Wilson at a conference last year, and so it's a fairly new book. And it's called Supporting People Through Loss and Grief, and really it's a guide for practitioners. So whether you're a counsellor or you're just somebody who's interested in supporting people through bereavement. But what I particularly like about this book is that it takes you through the theories, kind of old and new, and brings you up to date with where we're at now. John's a counsellor himself. He's doing a PhD at the moment, and we're interviewing him for this website, so that will be coming shortly. But what the book also does is take you through a training course that you can deliver to other people about bereavement and loss.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's based on the Crew 60-hour training course, but it takes you...
Is he a Crew's counsellor?
I think he used to be, or he had a connection with. So yeah, and it's fairly easy to read. It's not. He's very friendly. He's a very gentle guy. Yeah, and I would recommend it.
My sort of book then, because some books on theory I just find a bit like cycling through molasses, backwards.
Yeah.
Because I just, you know, it's got to really get me.
Yeah.
Is there case studies and things?
There is
that give
case
it a bit of
studies,
colour.
absolutely.
That's my kind of book.
So he's worked as a bereavement counsellor
Yeah.
since 1999. So he's built up a 12 case studies and experience, and he threads those through and relates them to the theory. So it's quite easy to read.
And also the author, as well as reading the book, is quite.
That's quite lovely.
It's quite a thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So if you meet the people, and he's on Twitter and things, if people do want to engage with him. So I thought I'd bring that one because it's nice to have a recommendation.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and easy to read.
Let's have a look at that myself then, if I can borrow it.
Leave that one to you.
Thank you. Do you want to do your second one? Or?
I can do. So I've bought two today. So this other book is Mindfulness, Finding Peace in a Frantic World. I don't know if either of you have read this before.
No, not that book, but I've kind of experienced a little bit of mindfulness. I've been on a couple of workshops about that, so it's,
But it's very buzzwordy at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mindfulness is your baby, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love mindfulness. And
Yeah,
we've done a few podcasts on the website, and we're updating
And they're
all the
being
time.
very well received, I understand, so that's really good.
Mark Williams and Danny Penman, who write this book, and this book has been in the top 100 of Amazon for as long as I can remember, and it's only £9, so it's quite affordable, and it comes with a CD. And the book takes you through an 8-week mindfulness program, and each chapter, there's 4 introductory chapters, but then each chapter goes on to take you through each week of a mindfulness program, and the CD has accompanying exercises.
I can see from that it's really well
Very
read.
well read. I've lent it to so many people.
I should think that lives in your handbag, doesn't
I should
it?
absolutely give permission for this book, the amount of times that I've recommended it. And I've literally known people it's changed their lives, it's changed the way that they relate to people, it's changed the way that they manage their own stress.
And how does that fit with your experience and knowledge of mindfulness? Did it kind of add to your knowledge?
I think this was the beginning of my journey.
Oh, beginning,
yeah,
okay,
so it came in at the beginning of my journey, so maybe that's why I love it so much. It's a really good, it's not, I wouldn't say it's an advanced guide to mindfulness, but if you've never come across it before and you want to give it a go, I'd
There's enough to catch you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about your podcast that you're doing is, and don't take this the wrong way, but it's kind of non-committal. It's up to the person themselves to dip into it. And I like that, because when you agree to go on a course, especially if you're not very well or if you're going through bad times, it gets to that day when you're due to go, and sometimes you just think, I won't go. And then when you've missed one, you miss another, and then you fall out of group, don't you? And you end up thinking, well, I've got to start it all over again. Whereas with yours that are now available on the website, people can actually just think, well, I'll do that today. I feel I can do that today. So,
and you can just do one as a one-off.
Yeah, we've had some really good feedback, so thank you for that if you're watching. Clive, this is one of my favourite books.
Yeah, this is a new book to me, When Dinosaurs Die, written by Laurie Krasny Brown and Mark Brown.
You might need to come over this way a bit, Clive.
Yeah.
To be honest.
And it's really different from Tanya's, because obviously Tanya's is quite wordy, and I'm a kind of picture type person with words.
Like me.
But as few words possible. As you can see, it's very bright, very vibrant, and you can relate to the characters straight away. I found it a really engaging book. And as an adult reading it through and trying to look at it through sort of like kids' eyes, I thought it was an excellent book. It kind of like takes you through the stages, the questions that kids want to ask, that adults probably wouldn't even think about asking, but kind of like looking at it from a kid's perspective, So it's about questions that they ask, about trying to gain an understanding. And I particularly like at the back there, they show various strategies where the child can, after the loss, can still kind of have that connection with that person through including in a story, through naming a pet. There's a whole range there of various strategies that can help ease that transition of that loss. So it's a really, really good book. Thoroughly recommend that.
What always interests me about working with children is even as adults, when we've used dinosaurs, we still remove the death thing a little way.
Yeah.
Kind of, use the dinosaurs, don't use the real people. I think it's probably one of the most descriptive books that I've seen for children about death and dying. But I just get intrigued that they've used dinosaurs.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of kind of hiding behind it. It's not
a little disassociation.
there's still that,
Absolutely.
that's the word I'm looking for. But Clive and I were talking about this before we were doing this podcast, and I was saying to him that I'd done some work with a child whose parent had died, and I'd done all the work that I thought I had done. I thought I'd got it all there for him. About the funeral, and there was some concern about him going to the funeral, but it was decided that obviously it was his parent, and he was only 5 at the time. So I'd done all this work, and when he came back after the funeral, I was asking him, did you see this, and did you see the car, and did you see the undertakers, and the answer to everything was yes. The thing that I'd failed was I hadn't told him what was in the box.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that was me just not considering it, but it's the big thing.
Yeah.
And ever since then, that was in my very early days, I'd sort of said to people going to funerals, you are going to explain what's in the box. And they've been, well, I don't know, that's a bit difficult. It's because it's difficult for us. But in When Dinosaurs Die, they actually have the coffin in one of the stories, don't they? And they talk about what's in the box, and I like that because it's honest, and I don't think children are as horrified by what's in the box.
I think it's very black and white with children. I think adults sometimes overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
And I was interested in hearing you speak there. How after reflecting back on that experience, what kind of like learning did you go through yourself about why maybe I didn't include what was in the box?
Well, it was a puzzle to me, because I've always thought I was very open and honest with the children, and I was absolutely shocked that I hadn't covered that one little bit. Well, what I did was I had some little coffins made. I did a bit of research on the internet and looked and saw that I think Winston's Wish play funerals with children, and I thought that was really useful. And I watched the Mummy Diaries that Winston's Wish did, and in one of those they've got one of their counsellors is working with a child and using the coffins. So I kind of brought that into my sessions then. And actually, some people seeing those coffins in the room were a little bit taken aback, and you're not actually really going to talk to a child about this. But actually what transpired was I got one that was plastic, and I used peel-off stickers, and so it got to a stage where if a child was going to a funeral, they'd be decorating the coffin and putting the person in and talking me through what that was about. And I think that's a really sensitive piece of work. Obviously, if you are working with children, that's something you need to do a lot of work around before you.
For sure.
I'm just thinking I've said that now, and.
But you weren't a supervision, weren't you, at the time? You're very experienced.
I think that's the important thing, and I'm always guarded about saying things like that, because it suddenly throws into my mind that somebody who perhaps is experienced in other things but not that might think, oh, I'm going to get a coffee and do that. But there is a lot of work that you need to do if you're going to do that with a child, and obviously the impact of it, the impact of the child then going home and wanting to perhaps do that work with the parent or guardian or whoever. So you've got to make sure, if you're going to do that, even if you are experienced, please make sure that the rest of the family, I'm always saying, and I don't know about you, Clive, but when you do any work, it's not only about your boundaries and your theories and what you know about keeping safe, it's also about the impact that what you do with a child can have on the family.
Absolutely.
You need to make sure the family are on board, don't you, and that they understand. where the journey
Just highlights to me, you know, because obviously you know, we've been doing this kind of work for many years, and it just highlights how it's kind of a difficult subject, and how sometimes our own stuff can stop us kind of like moving forward and going into areas that we feel uncomfortable with. So, and we've been doing it many years, so it just shows what a difficult subject it can be, especially when you're talking with young people, trying to raise that with young people. It's yeah, it can be hard.
I think that's why this book is such a lovely tool to help facilitate those kinds of conversations.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And I'm aware we're spending a bit of time on this, but I think children sometimes, even today, are the forgotten mourners. And I think if you can find something that's really useful, and there's lots and lots of books out there, this one just covers everything, and I just thought, what a great book. So if you are working with children, or you're a parent watching this and you want a book that can help you, When Dinosaurs Die is really... And you got it on Amazon?
Yes, I did, yeah.
I don't know how old it is.
No, I just think it's a really good tool because, you know, like children reading that could kind of stimulate their own kind of creativity in a way to express how it is for them. Because obviously the book is a start book, but quite often with young people I work with, it just triggers something. So then they produce their own kind of little book in inverted commas with pictures and colouring. So it gives you something to then work on a personal level for each child. That's obviously it's going to be unique and different, but it just gives that little tool to trigger those things about, yeah, so what is it that I feel that I can get down in a similar sort of format, but for them. So I think it's good for that purpose as well.
I was just going to ask you, it isn't only about family members, isn't it? Isn't there pets in that?
There's pets, there's friends. It covers a whole range of subjects, and so I particularly like the fact that it addresses the questions that you know, young children potentially want to ask. Because obviously it's an individual thing, but it kind of I think it's aimed for kids, and it kind of asks the questions through kids' eyes that young kids might want to ask. So and it's okay to ask, which is the important thing.
Thank you, Clive. Will you do a write-up of that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Alex, what did you bring?
Well, I'm if you know me, you'll know I'm steeped in the past, and I find people, inspirational people really. And as you know, Randy Pausch is one, and the other one is Deborah Hutton. And I don't know if you know anything about Deborah Hutton. Deborah Hutton was a journalist, and she had what she describes as a perfect life. She was quite successful, and she had children, and she discovered that she had cancer, and it was stage 4, so incurable. And in her journey, she started blogging and writing her journey, which I think the blogs, it's quite old now, I must say. She actually died in 2005. However, the book I have used such a lot. It's called What Can I Do to Help? And Deborah wrote this from the point of view of herself, and she also, I mean, there's lots of famous celebrities that added little bits in, but she also got lots of information from people who were also terminally ill, and things that they needed. And you know, it's just full of advice and sort of ways that people have supported each other. I mean, if I just flick open a page here, it says, plan a project together around the experience. There's just lots of little, you know, it gets you talking, or it says, it's just things like, you know, if you want to, I'm just trying to find the one I was looking at as well, offer the gift of life experience they would not otherwise have had. You know, and that's big with me, isn't it? You know, helping people to, we do work around bucket lists and things, and helping people to achieve things. And sometimes it's very small things that people want to do. But why I really like it is because when somebody is diagnosed with a terminal illness, you can feel so impotent, can't you? There's, you know, you're not going to be able to change it. So what can you do? And it's full of little practical things. Like there's one thing in here about somebody who's getting, they've decided they're going to, I'll make it up because I can't remember what the therapy is, but they're going to have this particular therapy, and in their mind they've thought about it. They're going to go to Mexico and they're going to have this special therapy, and it's going to help them. And what she says is, if somebody's come to that point, be supportive. Don't go in there and say, are you sure you really want to do that? Because you know this might be better. It's not helpful to do that. When people are in that place, what they need is support and help. they perhaps don't want you to keep ringing them all the time because they've got to keep telling the story, and that's exhausting. So, but simple things like offering to, and the other thing is, of course, this applies to people who are bereaved as well. You know, offering to pick their kids up from school, offering to go and clean their house, do their garden, keeping out of the way while you're doing those things, not kind of going around to see the person necessarily, but being there as a support for the family, offering to take phone calls, write a blog, be the point of information for other people, all of that kind of stuff. And I just thought this is the most amazing book, and what a brave lady to write it. Similar to Randy Pash, to share your experience. So, and the wonderful thing about this book, I don't know how much it raised, but 35p from every copy went to Macmillan's, who are very close to my heart, and you know, fantastic work from them too.